Bye-bye, World Wide Web. Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality of the best hair, and this week we'll be taking a look at The Bye-Bye Man. Released theatrically in 2017, The Bye-Bye Man is a relatively low-budget horror flick directed by Stacy Title. You'd think that it tells the story of the Bye-Bye Man, but rather it's the tale of a small group of teenagers who encounter the Bye-Bye Man and the terror that ensues. The Bye-Bye Man itself is based on The Bridge to Body Island, and it's up to you if you really care about knowing all the ins and outs of how the killer cut out its victims' eyes and tongues and sewed them all together and presto voodooed up a pet dog out of it. So for this tale we follow the teen trio of Elliot, John, and Sasha, who just so happen to find out about a supernatural horror killer that drives people insane, making them do terrible things. The way he gets into your head is through you knowing his name. Not exactly setting itself up for a viral marketing campaign, so let's all have a chat about this here Bye-Bye Man. What's the worst that could happen? Blood, brutality, broken bones, and of course the body count rising. So, let's take a look at the Bye-Bye Man and say it and think it as much as we damn well please. We open up to the ultimate horror, Suburbia! Here we see Larry Redmond, played by Leigh Whannell, ask Jane, played by Laura Knox, if she has told anyone what the title of this movie is.
Oh, yeah, I told Rick. He thought it was funny.
Yeah, maybe they could do a crossover with Lake Placid, call it See Ya Later, Alligator. But that just won't do. It's kind of like Fight Club. You just can't talk about it. Oh well, time to shotgun that little problem away. Which leads to a train because of the backstory of Cheerio Chum, which they don't really get into in this movie. But it exists! Woo! Just long enough for us to go back to Suburbia and meet Rick, played by Andrew Gorell. He admits to having told the name to Giselle, played by Martha Hackett, so... Okay, so the basic backstory is that Bye Felicia ran away as a child and lived in a train yard. They never really explain that in this movie, they just show a lot of trains, because... locomotives are scary? With that night train to terror taken care of, Larry heads out to offer some friendly neighborhood buckshot to Giselle and her friend Anna, played by Ava Penner. Ah, well, enough of that, because it's time for us to meet the real stars of this show, the trio of friends. Elliot, played by Douglas Smith, his friend since childhood, John, played by Lucien Laviscount, and Elliot's girlfriend, Sasha, played by Cressida Bonas. They're all moving in together! Elliot's renting a sweet old dark house, complete with dirty wallpaper, loose tiles, and creaking doors for that added sense of dread.
To put the bed here.
Well, maybe if there was a bed.
Yeah, the landlord said it was fully furnished.
And evidently the guy signed the contract to rent it out before even taking a tour of the place. I know characters in horror movies tend to make bad decisions, but damn. Fortunately, they don't have to spend 6 months to a year arguing over their rental agreement, because it turns out there is furniture in this house, stuffed into the basement for no apparent reason. However, it doesn't take long for John to realize something with sinister connotations.
Yo, all the dishes in here, they're white. Just saying.
Alright, looks like we can still sue. They don't seem to mind the day's worth of hauling furniture up the stairs they've gotten themselves into, and by nightfall everyone's settled in. Elliot reads some inspirational quote about coin flips and how effectively life is random as fuck, and y'all just gotta deal with it, before announcing, "I'm going to brush my teeth! Oh dear, what is that on the bed?" Sasha takes the bait and finds that Elliot has written her a love letter. In psychotic ransom note style, but it's a thought that counts. However, she hears what sounds like tinging coins behind one of the little attic doors. Whatever could it be?
Hey, Elliot, that's not funny.
Leaving psycho boyfriend notes is one thing, but don't go around slamming doors. That's just cheap. But it turns out Elliot was brushing his teeth all along! Oh well, can't get too bogged down with spooky doors just yet. It's time for a housewarming party! The important characters introduced here are Elliot's brother, Virgil, played by Michael Trucco, and Virgil's daughter, Alice, played by Erica Tremblay. While this is a happy family gathering, it doesn't take much for Virgil to notice something that might keep Elliot up at night.
Jesus, it's a good thing you're not jealous.
It is good.
Ah, so that's why I put the chair next to the bed. Of course, there are actual horrors looking around this old dark house, as we see when Alice breaks away from beer pong long enough to go snooping around upstairs, following the sounds of coins dropping. Eventually she finds one, and puts it back on the nightstand to go tell Uncle Elliot that she found a coin but put it back. However, when Elliot goes up, it's on the floor. Putting it away, it suddenly falls down again! What could be doing this heinously evil trickery? Oh, it's just an Elder Scroll. Scrolled with warnings to not think or say it, Elliot does the only thing any horror movie character would do at this point, and digs deeper until he finds that which he has been warned not to. You know, movie, I have a hard enough time selling Live and Wired mugs. I'm not really certain that there is a movie merch market out there for nightstand drawers. Interestingly enough, the seriously bad vibes in this house have been noticed by our handy-dandy psychic girl, Kim, played by Jenna Cannell. She's done a little ritual to help cleanse the evil spirits as her housewarming present, but Elliot isn't convinced of all this supernatural bullshit. Therefore, they decide to prove the existence of psychic powers by holding a little seance.
So if nothing happens, I should believe because it means you got rid of the spirit?
Elliot, come on.
What?
We all know you don't believe in this stuff, okay? But can you just please let her do it?
Just because the entire reason we set all of this up was to prove to you that it was real, it's still very rude to ask for things like proof. She starts off strong enough, talking about how Elliot's parents died in a crash. This gets him to ask who told her that, but everyone swears they didn't say a word. However, when Elliot asks her for more details, exactly what kind of crash they died in, Kim instead moves on to talking about Sasha. As it turns out, her grandma is here, and she made biscuits.
Everybody's grandma bakes biscuits.
Yeah, he's not wrong about that.
This is you know what?
You want to blindfold me too?
What for? Cold reading requires zero information to work, just enthusiastic participants being read. Hold on, I'm getting something. You, viewer, you had a parental figure in the past and there was a disagreement of some kind. God, I'm so good at this! Elliot instead decides the best way to test her psychic ability is to deduce her capacity to perform parlor tricks for his amusement.
You put the keys in a pot on the stove.
Did you?
You heard.
Well, maybe next time you try to set up something in secret, go for something a little less obvious than jingle jangle clang clang clang. Kim really wants to end this though, as something is seriously bothering her, causing her to scream, "Don't say it, don't think it," over and over again.
Don't say or think what? The bye-bye man. Jesus!
You saw the fucking Elder Scroll, man. How many more hints do you need to maybe not say it?
What's this? Extremely high voltage. Well, I don't need safety gloves because I'm Homer Simpson.
So the seance goes from harmless spirit-meddling fun to uncomfortable physical anxiety, and they call it there. However, the creepy happenings only continue into the night. Well, if you're gonna store your spare, creepy hooded cloak on a stand in your bedroom, what in the hell are you expecting to see? Ah well, just a garment, nothing to be scared of here. Love you.
Love you, John.
What?
Except for the fact that your roommate is a statuesque athlete with an 18-inch cock. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Or not, as it turns out, Johnny here bunked with the psychic gal last night, and he's not the only thing she didn't see coming, because he also doesn't react too enthusiastically when she asks him to come inside her place so they can finish what they started.
I'm hungry.
Jesus.
What?
Ah, what's the matter, John? Ain't you ever fucked a goth girlfriend in a bed of maggots before? So that's a no on round 2. However, returning home he finds more oddities, as Elliot is outside wondering just where these massive-ass claw marks came from.
I heard something after the party outside, scratching.
What do you mean you heard something?
Didn't realize that was a rhetorical question, but okay. John's got more important things to take care of, like showering. A lot. Sasha's not feeling so great either, coming down with a sudden illness. Don't worry, the fellas have her back. No, you take your Old Spice body wash and get out of here! Which he does in the blink of an eye. Seems like strange hallucinations are going around, as that night Elliot hears some strange scratching noises in the basement, and going in to investigate, he discovers more ridiculously huge claw marks, and also... Oh dear God, we don't have pets allowed in the rental agreement! Don't have to worry about that because, as it turns out, it was all just a psychotic hallucination! No monster dog, but lots of arguing between the three of them over who did or didn't hear what. Why one should or shouldn't worry about people touching each other, that sort of thing. It's not just Elliot losing it, though. Sasha has his side a bit more than he realizes. After all, she had a bit of a problem earlier when she lost track of time, and did something.
I sat down to study. I don't remember doing any of that.
She was in fact bewitched by none other than the Adieu Dude.
Bye-bye man's not real. It's just something that's in our heads.
That's real. Ideas are real.
What? No, it's thoughts. You think them. There's difference. Following this up with a nightmare about a train going right up their asses, Elliot awakens to see creepy eyes peering at him from the corner, and even worse. What? He still never bothered to move the hooded cloak. The thing had to move itself. The continued curse of the canine in clothing convinces Elliot that maybe he should think about looking up the problem. For his girlfriend's health, of course. No idea what he's dealing with, so time to Google it. Well, actually, it's about 257 million, but I guess he's dealing with the real horror of a shadow ban. Trying different terms and different search engines, eventually he finds a match on Don't Think It, Don't Say It. Just one, not the 2,860,000,000 you'd actually get. This leads him to dead file number... Well, the YouTube bot will flag the video if I say it, so let's go with the confirmed advertiser-friendly assfucker. It seems assfucker file is about the opening, that murder spree that was performed by a journalist who was researching...
The Bye-Bye Man.
So do I go with the body count rises thing, or...? Our fresh new victim is Mrs. Watkins, played by Cleo King. She's just a librarian trying to help Elliot out, but he's gone and blabbed the unblabbable to her, so way to go, numbnuts! Point is, Mr. Redmond researched the farewell fella, talked about it with his close friends and relatives, and decided he had to kill every last one of them just in case they told anyone else, because saying his name spreads his evil. Then, after killing himself, the story was never published, everything was redacted, and the only record of it at all is the assfucker file right here.
It's like someone redacted the whole story so no one else could read it.
Why would anyone do that?
Well, obviously he was batshit crazy.
Well, that and the whole thing about don't think it, don't say it, don't fucking publish it in a national newspaper seems to fit along those lines. She then says that history is a funny thing. Destroying records pretty much means things never even happened. Somehow, and then, pointing out that he's got the only record right there in front of him, she leaves the scene for a while. No surprise here, Elliot then begins feverishly defacing the document, scratching out any and all mentions of the Toodaloo Bro.
What are you doing, boy?
Taking way too fucking long with this, a lighter in 5 minutes could have done a much more thorough job. Especially as he's experiencing lost time, having been at this for something like an hour. This means he's late for catching up with Sasha, but just in time to witness Sasha catching up with John. How dare he actually be there for her instead of leaving her to stand out there sick in the cold for an indeterminate amount of time? Gotta say, jump scares would be a pretty effective way to cut down on window shopping. So, new plan! Elliot decides it's time to enlist the help of that handy-dandy psychic girl, who has herself been a little busy since the housewarming party. She's fully on board with believing in the terror of the Chow Cuz, and has an idea of what they need to do about it.
What can you do with cancer but cut it out? You have to stop it before it spreads and every cell dies.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip on the whole bludgeon to death treatment. We could try cannabinoid therapy. Asking if Elliot told anyone, Kim figures out they gotta hunt down and kill the librarian as well. But first, she sees an accident at the side of the road. Demanding Elliot to stop, he does, and she rushes forth to save them. Problem is, there's no one there, so Elliot grabs the bloody hammer and chases after her. Well, if you're gonna do it, may as well make it look as incriminating as possible, so that when the train does arrive, and smash Kim into psychic salsa, they can then tell the cops all about how you were chasing after her with a hammer. The cops being Detective Shaw, played by Trinity herself, Carrie Ann Moss.
She jumped out of your car to get away from you.
Jesus Christ. Elliot. That's not what happened.
I just feel awkward chasing after women if I'm not brandishing a bloody weapon at the time. Is that so wrong? Having Sasha and John there doesn't help Elliot too much, considering he spends the time trying to tell him to be sure not to say anything about the you-know-what, you-know-who, and you-know-why. Eventually, they understand, but Shaw doesn't, and brings Elliot in for more questioning. On the plus side, it turns out that Kim actually left a suicide note. Seems she admits to killing her own roommates with the hammer, and had actually intended on heading down to Elliot's place to finish them off, before the guy showed up at her door. Shaw says Elliot can then face much less charges if he signs that little confession about killing Kim, but it being more self-defense than it appeared. Thing is, Elliot isn't changing his story, and he also isn't explaining what his story is. Instead, explaining very clearly that he cannot tell her, because if he did, it would unleash a horror unlike anything she is prepared for.
All I have to do is talk to you. You and your kids. You're all dead.
I gotta say, I can't tell you or your family will die! Isn't exactly the first strategy that I would go for during a police interrogation. Somehow they actually let him go after that. His brother picks him up, but Elliot is sure to tell him nothing, leaving him nicely frustrated. Gotta get back home and figure out what to do. However, Elliot hears some suspicious noises. Seems John and Sasha already figured out what to do. Oh, Elliot, good to see ya. Close the door. It's kind of drafty. This is nothing a good baseball bat to the head can't solve. However, that's because they weren't even doing anything. Sasha was just sleeping, and John was just, I don't know. Oh well, a handy-dandy note about Larry Redmond's widow's home address can give the plot some direction. To be interrupted when the librarian calls Elliot up saying she's been seeing some crazy shit since they talked. No bother, he says she can come down. He might have a solution for them.
I'll be there soon.
Just thinking, at this rate, exactly how quickly would the Adios guy manage to bring about the apocalypse with a Twitter account? Not if Elliot has anything to say about it, so tying up John for safekeeping and throwing the nightstand in the woods, like that is about the same as destroying it, he heads out to meet Mrs. Redmond. Not gonna lie, that got a chuckle out of me. After the comic relief, Elliot finally reaches the home of Mrs. Redmond, played by Faye Dunaway. At least in present time, as she explains a story about how her husband was a journalist who didn't know how to take a hint and not learn the name of the thing that will kill you if you know its name. She's played by Keelan Woodell. She tells the backstory again, how he told a bunch of people and figured out in order to keep the evil from spreading, every single one of them had to die. Elliot, however, wants to know just how she managed to avoid that fate herself.
How did you survive all this time?
Survive?
Yes. How did you beat it?
I didn't beat it. I never knew it.
What?
Yeah, supernatural evil that'll kill you no matter what. Turns out there isn't a trick to beating it. And we've only got like 20 minutes of movie left, so I doubt we're gonna find one. Her advice to him is to just take the gun and kill everyone who knows the name and then himself. That's just how you do it. However, after a vision of her burning and begging to be shot, Elliot realizes that it's just the Godspeed goon messing with his head, and thus he can be defeated if they don't fear him, Freddy Krueger style. Thus, heading home with this new revelation, he is haunted by visions, but refuses to let any of them slow him down. Of course, that strategy doesn't really work so well when you end up running down an actual person who was actually standing there in the middle of the road. Whoopsie! That was Mrs. Watkins. Remember her? Heard the name, killed her family, was on her way to take out Elliot as well. Ah well, guess that plot thread is taken care of. Now to get home. However, before he does, the au revoir arsehole begins fucking with John and Sasha, leading Sasha to believe John is Elliot and John to think Sasha is Kim, back from the dead and ready to tear into his loins. By the time Elliot makes it, he finds John has Sasha pinned and is stabbing her with a pair of scissors. Something has to be done, so he shoots him! Or does he? Nope, shot the wrong one. Or, well, considering that all of the indiscretions were just horror visions put in his head, technically speaking, John didn't do anything wrong. Yes, this was all the work of none other than Hasta la Vista, baby, who has arrived to torment Elliot in person. He's never going away, but you know what? He can still spread to Alice. So realizing his family is close, Elliot heads downstairs to tell his brother, "Get out of here! Don't come back! And no, I can't tell you why!"
I gotta go!
Go someplace close where I can see it and be quick, okay?
Outside?
Nobody's gonna see you, baby. It's okay. Go, 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 go.
We got a horror movie climax going on. Get the kid out of here! As Elliot realizes there is nothing he can do to truly defeat this evil who is trying to force him to say the name, there is only one thing left to do. Not the best outcome, but the logical one. Now all that's left to do is set up that sequel bait. Therefore, tragic ending! Elliot and friends are dead, but they did manage to end the curse of Sayonara Sucker once and for all. There's no record left of the name anywhere, except the nightstand that Elliot threw out and Alice found while she was out there and saw writing on it.
What did this writing say?
Daddy, you know I can't read in the dark.
Oh, sequel bait circumvented! I admire that. I mean, at least I would if that was actually how the movie ended. Nope, despite the stabbing and the house on fire and all that, it turns out John is still alive and he's got something to say to Detective Shaw before he goes. So we have sequel bait turned on its head right before 100% pure unapologetic sequel bait. Movie, you don't know what in the hell you're even trying to do anymore, do you? Anyway, that was The Bye-Bye Man. And it's a hell of a lot better than you might have heard it was. I watched the movies I'm going to review first and then do research on them, and was honestly pretty shocked when I saw just how low a score this film has on many, many websites. It's no Nightmare on Elm Street, but The Bye-Bye Man ain't no Alien Origin either. I will say it has a slow, awkward start. Fortunately, it doesn't give us too many characters to complicate things, but the few we have aren't the most interesting. John's a jock, Elliot and Sasha are boyfriend and girlfriend, the librarian's a librarian, and the Bye-Bye Man is the Bye-Bye Man. That's not all bad, as I don't mind that they don't go into every little detail about the horror they were facing. After reading up on the story it's based on and learning it, I don't think knowing he's an albino from Louisiana really adds anything. It gives some context, but it doesn't make him any scarier. Leaving his origins ambiguous not only worked out better in my opinion horror-wise, but made more sense if we're going by the notion that people have already been working on stripping any record of who or what he is from history for decades. When it comes to horror in general, things are also a bit touch and go. Early on it's jump scares and creepy goings-on that really don't make sense as nobody's even found the name yet. Later on though, I think the movie really comes into its own. The sense of dread for knowing you're cursed, your friends are cursed, the curse can spread, and you can solve that through murder-suicide, but understandably really don't want to, is done well. The librarian hit-and-run subplot, not so much. Overall, The Bye-Bye Man is an enjoyable horror flick that probably isn't going to wow you, but if you're a fan of horror, I highly recommend at least checking it out. It's a supernatural tale that actually bothers to come to its logical conclusion, coming in at 3 very poor clothing rack locations out of 5. And to all those critics out there who gave it a 1 star, or a D-, or 2 out of 10, I gotta ask, have you ever seen Alien Origin? Wishmaster 3? Wishmaster 4? You want shitty movies? I got you shitty movies. Thank you all for watching. I have been Decker Shado. And remember, don't say it. Don't think it. Don't like. Don't subscribe. Don't click that bell. And don't select all notifications. I mean, it's not like that shit works anyway.
I feel like I